And welcome back to another episode of Water Guy Unfiltered. I always forget to say unfiltered at the end. But yep, that's our new tagline here.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, Paul, your Connecticut Advanced Water Systems water guy.
And I am Ethan, your local Powhatan, Virginia audio guy.
And we are enlightening your horizons on all things that have to do with water. So, what it seems like, has it been 3 weeks since our last one? Or are we back on the 2-week schedule? I think we might actually be.
This is, because the last one we did was October 23rd. So it's been
3 weeks.
Yeah, this is the 3-week mark.
3 weeks just keeps going by.
Yeah, I know.
At first we did this, we were just, before the show started, we were talking about when did we really start this? And it was like August of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And back then it was a radio show. Those of you that have listened all the way back to the beginning, it was a very tame set. We didn't say anything that would get us in trouble, but it was a
FCC regulations and the sort.
Yeah, the FCC got in the way on a lot of content that we wanted to have, but yeah, it was a weekly radio show.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to come up with content every week and drive downtown Richmond, which I can't stand. But that's how we met, and it's going to be pretty funny that we're going to be doing this for years. And we were just talking about the building that we're in is we're over by the Richmond airport, kind of, and it's an older building built in the 50s. And
is that how old this building is?
Yeah,
interesting.
All right. It's got, and it had a lot of character when I came over here back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking around and I was like, where the heck are we going to locate? And I picked this place because it's old, built in the 50s, and Connecticut, which we're dealers of, obviously, was started in 1970, and I was born in 70, so I was like, you know what? All things old. Here we go. And the cool part about this is we're by the airport, so we see and get to hear sometimes some really cool planes going overhead.
Oh, yeah.
I just love planes. I don't know what it is about them. Just it never ceases to amaze me that something like a loaded semi truck can just take off and fly around, given the right wings and jet and engines and stuff.
I'd say if you pour enough fuel in there and let it provide enough horsepower, it'll do anything you want.
Pretty much, yeah. So that's how we ended up here. But I was thinking, exploring options of literally tearing the roof off of this building and basically adding a second level onto it. That would be. I just had this vision of all glass all around, kind of like a commercial skyscraper office building, but nowhere near scraping the sky. Only 2 stories up, but that's enough that you can't get anybody peeking in your windows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have your privacy, but we love plants here. There's friggin' plants everywhere.
Yeah, I've been noticing a large influx of plants every time I step into the building.
Yes, and it's a range of everything from succulents and cacti to what is this thing here? Poinsettia, which we have this poinsettia, and these things, they don't die. They're the red ones, in case anybody doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
In the
Christmas plant.
The Christmas plant.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was always told you take your poinsettia and you stick it in a closet for 30 days and it'll turn red. That's how they get them to do that. Supposedly they put them all in the dark. But there's a mechanic down the road that this guy, he's a mechanic, but he's got a green thumb. So I went in there a couple weeks ago and they're all eating pineapple. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, great. These guys love pineapple. And he was proud to say, yeah, we're having one of our first harvests. And I'm like, what the heck what are you guys like inhaling over here? And turns out they've been growing pineapples off of the cuttings from pineapples from years ago. So that was actually a pineapple that they were growing in the showroom. Yeah, I was like, you know what? That made me think about the whole glass top up here.
Mm-hmm.
Like we could have pineapples and all sorts of natural foods and things like that, and which goes hand in hand kind of with today's episode.
And what is today's episode about?
You're going to love this. So I came up with the title because I had to give Stacy a break on that. And when I said it, she started dying laughing. I said, today's episode is going to be called Yes We Can. Because, well, we just had the election and it just seems very...
Appropriate?
Yeah, very appropriate that we throw that out there. But it'll all make sense. No pun intended, actually, full pun intended. But it's an interesting one because we were going to talk about something entirely different tonight that we'll get into on the next one because some of the background story and information on that story turned out to be a story in itself. And we were just fascinated. We're going through, both of us were in different rooms, but the door was open so we could, yell obscenities back and forth. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she's like, I know. I'm like, did you know this? And we started spitting things out. So this whole thing started because I've been going to the gym, as I may have mentioned on earlier episodes. And I'm in my mid-50s. My trainer is almost 50 years old. So he's 5 years behind me, roughly. Big as a house. And he trains everything from guys my age all the way down to bodybuilders and even in some cases high school.
And probably student athletes.
Student athletes.
Gotcha.
Yep. He's gifted with he's got those hands that he can tell. Like my wife constantly, she's going to kill me when she hears this. She's like, oh, can you feel this knot? And she makes me feel a certain spot, like on her shoulder or on her back. Mm-hmm. I can't feel anything. And she gets so angry. She's like, what do you mean you can't feel that? And he's got these hands that literally, I was in pain last week. And he reaches up. He's like, oh, yeah, you got a rib out of place. And I'm like, how the hell did you just touch me like that and figure that out? And he's like, no, seriously, I'll be able to fix it as soon as he can. He just got done with having 3 neck vertebrae fused. So the dude's a beast. He was down he was out of commission completely for 2 weeks. And then he's back, but he's basically there standing and giving guidance. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that all being said, so he's a tank. He's kind of like, he and I get along really well because there's no such thing as sick days. Mm-hmm. But I guess when your neck is fused, you
might have to take a break.
We give him, you get 10 days off. So he was telling me, actually yesterday, in the middle of the workout, I see him kind of like staring off into space like he's in deep thought. Mm-hmm. And I look at him, I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, in the last 7 years, I've realized something that just hit me. He's like, I've got all these younger guys that have low T. That's low testosterone for those of you that have never heard that term.
Right.
But he's like, I just don't, there's got to be something going on that's causing this. He's like, because I got guys that are fit, they're working out all the time, they're in their late 20s, and they've got T levels of somebody in their 40s and 50s.
Right.
And he's like, it's not just one, it's like most of them. So I was like, that made me think, I'm like, well, obviously it's something environmental. It's something we're eating, something we're drinking, or something we're exposed to. I doubt that genetically we're all becoming horribly weaker. Mm-hmm. and changing into low T before we even hit 30 years old. So that kind of was how this one got born, because I was going to do a deep dive and see if there was any relationship between what we might be eating or ingesting or drinking and low T. So if you're a woman, this episode won't be that exciting, but if you're a woman that is around men, sons, husbands, anybody you care about, this is going to be one of those eye-opening ones. So, weird. So I was thinking, as I always do, it must be something we're drinking, because most of what we put inside our body in liquid form is a beverage.
Mm-hmm.
The food, the food is what the food is. But when I was telling somebody actually today, I said, when I was growing up, I came from that generation where when bottled water first came out, we were all like, who the heck would do that?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. You got water coming out of the tap. But now everybody has a bottle of water or some sort of container that they tote their water around with them. And all these containers have some degree of plastic in them. So we started looking at, was it a container problem? Because I doubt that the beverages themselves, now a lot of these things are, let's just say, horrible for you. These energy drinks that I see people just guzzling. That's a whole episode in itself.
I don't know if I should be here for that episode.
Are you a
brother? I live off of those things.
Oh gosh,
that's 50% of what keeps me alive throughout the day. Is 200
wonderful
milligrams of caffeine straight to the dome.
Wonderful. Well, it's not the caffeine that you're going to be worried about. So, do you drink energy drinks that come in a can, or glass, or a plastic container?
Can.
A can.
Aluminum
Okay.
can.
All right.
Aluminium for those across the pond.
I did not know, for those of you listening, I had no idea because he's not actually drinking out of one right now. But I dug into the whole container thing, and somehow we covered this before, where we talked about the aluminum can and how they dipped it in hydrochloric acid.
Yeah.
Yes.
They pulled it out, and there was like a little.
Pulled it out, and it looked like a condom. It was just this weird looking, sickly plastic can that was flopping around. It was creepy. It was horrible. And that's where I was thinking, I wonder if that coating, if that plastic in the can might be doing something. So I started digging into the aluminum can thing, thinking, all right, well, it used to just be aluminum. And I remember when I was growing up, you're going to find this amazing, but beer actually came in steel cans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't remember that because that was way before your time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember it was the pull tabs on the beer cans.
I love the way they look, though.
Yeah,
They're so cool looking.
They're tough. So they switched over. I don't remember what I should have looked this up before, but I can't remember what decade. I want to say it's probably in the 70s when it was before the 80s. In the 80s, we were definitely all drinking out of aluminum. But I'm pretty sure they started transitioning from steel cans to aluminum cans back in the 70s. And I remember nerding out about it. Did the fact checking?
I'm just looking at it.
Oh, you're just looking at those.
That came up though, but yeah, these look cool. But yeah, around between the 60s and 70s is when they
started switching.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the rationale, I remember my dad explained it to me many decades ago, and he said, yeah, they switched from the steel can to the aluminum can, not because it's cheaper, because aluminum actually costs way more than steel, but they switched over because you can taste the steel in the beer, and you can't taste the aluminum. So,
I like the taste of steel.
Yeah, the taste of iron in your beer. Ugh. So they switched. That was the original reason for it. And back then, we really didn't have a lot of plastics. Back in the 70s, I'm trying to remember the first time I remember seeing really a lot of plastic. Even our milk came in those
it's like paper
those cardboard folded top jugs.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a lot of plastics. That was something that developed throughout the years. But so there's a lot of things. When beer first came out in the aluminum can, they didn't have a liner in it.
Straight aluminum.
Straight aluminum. Yep. And that was what they said. It basically it wasn't impacting the taste. So what they ended up finding out is that we know now that literally every single container that has a beverage in it has some sort of liner in it now. I didn't know that. But that's that we've actually dialed that down as some hard facts. So everything has a liner in it, and some of us go, well, how the heck do you put a liner inside a can? It's sprayed in like paint, and it's actually like an epoxy. Well, let's just say that there are. Let's just jump right into this.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. Let's back it all up here. I got a lot of this information. Actually, this is a really well-written article by a guy named Jonathan Waldman in Science magazine back from actually 2015. So this is like 9 years old. But definitely nothing has changed in the last 9 years.
Right.
But this guy actually went to the world's largest can maker for a class. Take a guess what company is the world's largest can maker?
World's largest can maker?
Yeah. Like cans, like big cans for food. Like, could be a dog food can. It could be beverage cans.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I was originally going to say Coca-Cola Bottling Company.
Yeah, no, they get all their stuff from other places.
Okay.
Well, most of them. So, Ball Corporation.
Oh,
Ball jars.
that makes
the Mason
sense.
jars.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, so they were all in the whole canning thing. That was their basic existence. And then they turned into literally the world's largest can maker, which I found that crazy that, you're dealing with glass. And then all of a sudden you're dealing with all these different metals. And they were talking about they're really fanatical about, what they do over there and how much of an engineering feat it is to actually make cans because they're constantly, believe it or not, just jamming up the machines and stuff like that. So it's not like millions of them. Actually, it's more than it. The people in the entire world go through 180 billion aluminum beverage cans every year. 180 billion. That's insane.
Interesting.
So just in the United States, where was that one at there? The U.S. uses 100 billion beverage cans every year. And those 100 billion beverage cans, there's that coating that's on the inside of those things, uses about 20 million gallons of epoxy coatings. So think about that. There's that much epoxy on the insides of these things.
Right.
So that coating that's in there, it's fascinating actually, because it's rust. Rust is the number one enemy of a can.
Right.
So the purpose of that coating is to basically protect the food from being able to impact the structural aluminum, so that you don't have any rust and you don't have any cans exploding and stuff like that. So it puts this invisible epoxy shield, and it's just literally microns thick when it's all done. But without that shield, like there's certain things out there that have different shields on them. Like I figured it was one just you spray this thing and you're good. You can put anything in it. It turns out that there's a lot of chemistry that goes on with this. So they gave an example. Without that shield, an aluminum can of Coke would corrode completely in 3 days. That's nuts.
Interesting.
So 3 days after you put it in there, it'll eat right through. So that's why they have to put this coating on there.
What's in the Coke then?
Yeah.
So you can clean car batteries off of that stuff.
Those videos are absolutely true.
Yeah.
Coke is extremely corrosive. So the coating, what's in the coating? That's where we kind of dig into this whole thing.
That is exactly what my next question was going to be.
Well, that all depends. Because before they will actually coat the insides of the cans, the ball, in this case, needs to know how corrosive the beverage is actually going to be. So the epoxy coating, actually, the cost of it is about a half a penny per can, and this was 9 years ago, so it's probably over 10 cents now. Or not, not 10 cents. It's not that much, but it could be, you know, 0.6 pennies per can, which isn't insignificant when you're talking about literally 100 billion cans.
Right.
So they don't want to waste any of this stuff. And I was asking you earlier about, you know, do you do energy drinks? I kind of trapped you into that one. You didn't even know it because I had a feeling you probably did take some of them. So the some beverages are so corrosive that no amount of coating will protect it. That's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
It said here, and this was the energy drinks 9 years ago. It said roughly 1 in 7 energy drinks are too corrosive to be put in cans. So you either have one that's been really, really protected with a whole bunch of spray-on epoxy, or the other alternative is to get your energy drink in a completely plastic bottle, which that's not safe either. Mm-hmm. But a spray coating versus a plastic bottle, 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of crazy that 1 in 7 of them, they can't even put in cans because they're going to eat right through it. But Coke, that'll eat through it in 3 days, they can actually protect it almost indefinitely.
That's insane.
Yeah. So they have to basically design or determine the corrosivity of the product that's going to go in it. So they have their own. They're not going to share this, obviously, like the formula on how they determine how corrosive it is. Mm-hmm. But they know that certain things cause corrosion more than others.
Right.
So corrosion-wise, sodium benzoate is bad. Copper's bad. Sugar is good. I found that one interesting. Sugar absorbs carbon dioxide, decreasing the pressure within a can, and also inhibits other corrosion reactions because sugar tends to deposit onto the pores of the coating. Mm. So I guess it is harder to preserve Diet Coke than a regular Coke because of the sugar differences.
Aspartame.
Yeah. The 2 counts basically. It doesn't absorb the carbon dioxide as much, which means it's under more pressure, and it doesn't really stick into those pores.
Right.
Whereas regular Coke does that, and that opened me up a whole other question. Does the type of sugar matter? Because we have these high fructose corn syrups that we drink here in America, and overseas you don't get high fructose corn syrup because they've been banned in most countries.
Right.
I was in Mexico. When the hell was I there? Last New Year's? Was I there for New Year's or Christmas? Anyway, almost a year ago. And I purposely went and I bought a Coke when I was down there. Okay. And yes, it came with sugar in it, not high fructose corn syrup.
I bet it was fantastic.
And it was the best damn Coke. Maybe because I've been trying to eliminate that entirely.
Yeah.
After this episode, I'm definitely eliminating it. Unless it's made out of sugar, real sugar.
Yeah.
And it's in glass. So, because I just gave away the end of the show right now. Basically, everybody that's wondering, well, what do we do?
Buy glass.
Buy glass. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, so Diet Coke underperforms regular Coke. Some other stuff that's bad on the corrosivity, citric acid and phosphoric acid. Well, I know phosphoric acid is bad because we use phosphoric acid to actually clean water softeners. And you could see the foaming and the fizzing of this stuff as it's like burning off all the contaminants that have stuck to all the resin and everything that's inside there. But yeah, phosphoric is nothing to play with. Said red number 40 is pretty bad. I don't know what the heck is in a color to make it bad, but if they say it's pretty bad, it must be pretty bad.
Yeah, I know all those like food dyes.
Well, yeah.
Pretty bad.
I know they're just bad for your health, but I didn't realize that they were actually like, they must be ridiculously acidic or something.
Petroleum.
What?
Yeah.
Red number 40 has petroleum?
Red dye 40 made from petroleum.
Oh, wonderful. Dead dinosaurs. Okay, so it's pretty bad because it's made from petroleum, but that's whatever. High chlorides are also really bad. And when you have high chlorides and red 40, quote, they're really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So you can compound these things. It's not like, okay, more than one just bad is just bad. No, it's not like that. You can actually make it really, really nasty. But it says Ball has developed a carefully guarded formula quantifying all this corrosion badness. But it wasn't displayed on any graph at the school that he had there. So they don't make cans by the billions until after, actually, I think I told you, they do 25% of all the cans that are made in the entire world. Ball Corporation.
That is a lot of cans.
That is. So that still puts them in literally the billions category. So basically, if you want to have a beverage canned by them, you got to go through their engineers, and they're going to match the beverage with the appropriate coating before they'll put it in the can. So your energy drink must have gone through some extensive testing to find out what it's going to take to keep it from eating into the can.
Yeah.
And then after they spend all that money, you probably got one of those fancy cans that's all embossed. It looks like Braille.
Mm.
Does it have that, like the pattern imprinted on it, or is it just a nice smooth can?
Oh, on the outside of the can?
Yeah.
Some do, some don't.
Oh, you're not loyal to one particular?
I'm not a loyalist, no. I bounce in between.
I don't know how unfiltered I can. Some people may listen to this and be like, he just called him yeah, I won't even say it. Just bad language. Right? I think we get, I was listening to one of my own podcasts just because I was bored.
Mm-hmm.
And at the bottom, this is a complete side note, but at the bottom of this particular platform, it had the rating. Like, what's the word? Exploit. Shit. The word. Bad language.
Explicit.
Explicit. Yeah. I don't know why I couldn't say explicit. I was thinking exploited language, and that's an entirely different thing. But I'm exploiting language, but not explicit language. Not yet. But you are definitely an energy drink slut. So, anyway. So you're, where the heck were we? I was just talking about something.
Talking about like the outside of the can, if it has like texture on the outside or something like that.
So they invest all that money into finding the right can, so then your can is literally customized for your beverage.
Yep.
That's why at that point they might as well just stamp something in there and add an extra, 20 cents onto the whole thing.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Make it $4 a can.
Is it really $4 a can?
Some of them. I don't spend it because when I see that price, I run until I see a deal, and then I buy 10 of them.
$4.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is insane.
We got to figure out the dollars per gallon on what you're spending there. So they basically come up with this awesome match of the lining, the spray-on lining, and then they got to make sure that this doesn't impact the flavor of the beverage.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you think they do that?
Trials.
Yep. They actually have these flavor testers. That's actually what they're called. And they have trained these people to have like a super sensitive palate.
Mm-hmm.
So first they trained them to detect in parts per million, which that's a friggin' tiny ass number.
Right.
Parts per million. It's milligrams per liter. So if anybody wants to really nerd out at home, get a liter of purified water and take, if you have a scale, a gram scale, try to measure out a milligram, even 100 milligrams. I don't even know if you can find a scale that'll give you a milligram. But anyway, put it in there, shake it up, and then taste it. Mm. That's like how they start learning how to detect certain flavors. So it gets crazier than that because we deal with parts per million all the time.
Right.
And then then they get into parts per billion, which there is 1,000 parts per billion and 1 part per million. So that one that I was talking about putting in there, divide that into 1,000 and drop that in there and see if you can taste it. And then I guess like the really, really good people can actually taste and tell the difference down to parts per trillion. That's 1,000,000 times smaller than parts per million.
Can you imagine going through your everyday life with that sensitive of a palate?
Oh, you couldn't eat any. Can you imagine if you burnt your tongue accidentally? Like,
oh, dude,
you'd be out of work.
You'd be cooked.
You would. I'm sure they'd go to Lloyd's of London and have their tongues insured.
Right.
That's a whole nother episode by itself. But yeah, that alone was kind of amazing that a human can actually do that down to that level of. I mean, that's like going out and you don't need a hound dog anymore. You're going to sniff out the guy using your own nose.
Right.
Just being able to detect molecules, just nuts. So basically, if those guys can't taste something, nobody can. Right. So if they pass it, it's good to go. And then they bring up this interesting thing. Well, we've gone over our midpoint here. Come back. We're going to take the break. I'm going to leave you the cliffhanger here. But let's just say when you come back, we're going to let you in on some info about your pets.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. Some word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
All right, today's sponsor is your health. This is your health speaking. We're imploring that you please do something about your water. Call a local water professional. Don't call a plumber. We could talk about that for a long time, but do you trust the same guy that's flushing turds to take care of your drinking water? If you do, then we can't help you. But this is your health talking. Take this seriously.
And welcome back. Hopefully that was a entertaining word from our sponsors there.
It's always an entertaining word from our sponsors.
I love our sponsors.
Come on.
If you want to be a sponsor, please reach out.
Please.
Go to our website, ConnecticutRichmond.com, and say, I want to be a sponsor. Or better yet, you can just go ahead and like us, favorite us, rate us highly, do whatever you can do to help drive this thing.
Yeah.
Because we are all over the country right now.
Yeah, all over the country. Did I hear
all
that
over the world?
Y'all are international now?
Yeah. So that's a funny one. I was on a webinar earlier today about the marketing with Connecticut, which is our primary. We're dealers of the Connecticut products here,
right? Which
is pretty good because last year we were the #1 largest dealer in the world. Mm-hmm. And Connecticut's weird. A lot of people listening to this show probably never heard of Connecticut before.
Right.
But I guarantee you almost everybody here has heard the phrase, "Hey, Culligan man." Except for the younger generation, because they don't do that one anymore. Anybody in their 40s on up remembers, "Hey, Culligan man."
Yeah.
But Connecticut really has never done any advertising. They've always relied on their dealers to do that on a boots on the ground level. So they got this new program out there that it basically is it's helping to make sure that as dealers we're up with the current marketing ideas, so that we're at least doing some things. Because believe it or not, there's some dealers across the country that don't do anything. They just go off of word of mouth. They don't advertise. They don't do anything to help, drive the family to be bigger and better. We, of course, do tons of things. This started out as one of those. But one of the things that they were talking about is using this micro-influencers. And I was like, what the heck is a micro-influencer? And I'm in the next room from Stacy, and I'm like, Stacy, am I a micro-influencer? I didn't know she was on the phone with a customer. She's trying to keep a straight conversation going, and I hear her dying laughing under her breath, trying to keep it all in. She had no idea what I was talking about. But yeah, there's a new thing called micro-influencers. I think that's what I want to be.
Okay.
So
we can make that happen.
We could. We got to. Like, support, share, and I'm going to be a micro-influencer. It's my first aspiration. Before the break, we left a cliffhanger here talking about flavor testers and how certain humans can actually detect flavors down to parts per trillion, which is a stupid amount.
That's right.
So when I said the biggest can manufacturer, that goes into food cans as well as beverage cans. Mm-hmm. So soups, Spam, things like that, all that crazy stuff, anything with liquid in it, or actually not even liquid. I'm sure there's dry things that go in cans, not too terribly many, but almost everything has some degree of liquid in it. Otherwise, it would just be dehydrated. So cat food, dog food, pet food.
Tuna.
Well, yeah, that's human food.
Oh, wait, you're doing like non-human food now. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, cats love tuna. But tuna in human food has already gone through the human tasters, right? Mm-hmm. So apparently, dogs don't give a shit. Dogs will. Right. I've seen dogs eat dead animals and dead fish laying on the side of a polluted river. Yep. So dogs are not very picky, but and you hear about like picky cats, right?
Yes.
There's actually a reason for that. Their extreme organoleptic capabilities. That's a fancy word for they're picky with their taste. Due to that fact, cat food is packaged in cans with particularly low levels of taint. Taint is a funny word. We won't even go there. But tainted so that it doesn't taste funny, because cats are very picky.
Right.
So we even go through. And it made me kind of giggle because I'm thinking, is there a dude out there that tastes cat food?
That was my immediate thought when you started talking about this. I'm like, there ain't no way.
Yep. No, they're actually. I don't think they have people. I'm sure they have cat testers that probably walk around with cat suits on, and they taste the food and they see if the cat approves or not. But if you have a picky cat and you've noticed that maybe one wet cat food in a can the cat likes and another one it doesn't, the one that it likes may have come from Ball, because apparently they have definitely dialed in all those little details there to make sure that your cat loves its food.
Yeah.
So, the flavor testers, take a guess what category of thing they spend much of their time tasting.
What category of thing?
Yeah, just what do you think they taste the most of? What cans?
Oh.
Beer.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to help you on that one. So basically, beer is very susceptible to flavor scalping if it comes into contact with too much coating. So the smell, too much coating makes beer taste like coating. And they can taste that stuff, that's kind of why we're getting into this episode, because if you can taste the coating, that means the coating is in your beverage.
Yep.
For sure. But beer is a nice oxygen scavenger, which basically means the proteins in the beer consume the dissolved oxygen, keeping it from accessing and corroding the aluminum. So this all makes sense because way back when they first converted from steel to aluminum, remember I said that they did that because you can't taste the aluminum? Mm-hmm. Well, they don't need to put a liner in beer in those aluminum cans. But they started doing it. You know why?
What?
Not because they just wanted to spend an extra half a cent per can. But the reason they did that was because they're trying to make sure that when you open it, the carbon dioxide doesn't escape all at once.
Oh.
So the coating actually smooths out the surface of the metal so that the gas has no micro bumps from which to propagate. So smooth surface, you're not going to have just foam, just all that carbon dioxide getting all out at the same time. Then you end up sitting there, your beer gets warm and it's flat, and then you don't even like it anymore.
No.
So they put it in there so that your beer stays carbonated longer after you open the thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. But that's what they taste a lot of the beers to make sure that they're not picking up too much flavor from this horrible coating that they put inside there. Orange juice, which vitamin C also consumes oxygen. That's why canners were able to package it so long ago. Didn't realize that orange juice was one of the first things that was canned, but apparently it was.
Oh.
Because oxygen is what causes degradation and food to go bad. So once you open something up, then it goes bad, right? Otherwise, like you can have a yogurt that you don't open for months and months and it's fine, but as soon as you crack that thing open, it goes nuts. But yeah, oxygen is not good for preserving things. So you're probably wondering, what in the world is in the coating? Well, the formulas for those coatings are proprietary, but we know that the epoxies must be affordable, sprayable, curable, strong, flexible, and sticky, because we want them to not go anywhere. And we already learned that they're very specific for each type of food or beverage. So there's just literally 15,000 different coatings that are used, depending on what's going in there. That's crazy. 15,000 different formulas.
This is giving me Forever Chemical vibes. PFAS and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, you know where we're going already.
Yeah.
So some examples: coatings for tomatoes must be stain resistant. Those for fish must resist sulfur. And fruits and pickles, they got to resist the acids that are in there. Right. So there's all these specific coatings that are out there. For beer, an engineer might use a coating that contains cyclodextrin, a donut-shaped carbohydrate that traps bad-tasting molecules. Like a carbon filter in your beer. Wonderful. And I didn't realize this, but chocolate. When was the last time you had chocolate in a can?
Maybe like cocoa powder?
Maybe. Oh,
maybe.
What's that? Do they even make Yoo-hoos anymore? You know what a Yoo-hoo is?
They do, yes.
Yeah.
Chocolate water?
Yes,
Yeah.
a little can, the Yoo-hoo. That must be what it is. So that one probably has its own coating. This one made me kind of chuckle. The ones for meats, and my first thought was, meat? The heck kind of meat is in a can? But then I was thinking, okay, Spam, all the, basically the canned meat.
Yeah.
Is there any other kind? Spam?
Vienna sausages, they make canned chicken.
Is it like pressed into the can?
Yeah.
Like that, the cheap, we're going into Thanksgiving, and my favorite part of Thanksgiving is the cranberry sauce.
Foul.
That you crack open, you take the lid off the can, and then you poke a hole on the other side, and the whole thing slides out, and it's got the corrugated ridges on it, and you just slice it with a butter knife.
Foul.
You don't like that?
Awful.
Oh, gosh,
Awful.
I love that. I don't know why my wife thinks I'm crazy, her whole family. We have this elaborate Thanksgiving planned in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say we're having a duck. I've never had a duck for Thanksgiving, but this is going to be some very special, exquisite food, and it's going to be funny because they're going to have that jellied cranberry sauce on a plate for me. I know it's terrible, but they know I love that stuff. Mm. But if you're canning meats, that coating must contain a lubricious wax called a meat release agent, so that the meat slides right out. So if you've ever taken the cranberry sauce out of the can, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It won't come out unless you poke a hole on the other side, but then it just whoop.
Beans too,
beans,
like
like
refried
beans.
Yeah, if you put the can over heat and you open the top up, it slides out due to the heat.
Oh yeah, I've never done that. I just poke a hole on the other side and it just slides out because the vacuum isn't there.
No, yeah, people will put it directly on a pan that's overheat, and
it just jumps out.
The hot air will slowly push it out of the can.
Well, what do you do? Is it go out on the burners, or do you?
If it's in a pan.
Then, you put it in the pan.
You put it in the pan.
You let it jump out.
It slips out, and you just pour it out like that.
Like jumping beans.
Yeah.
Jumping.
Have you
know what have you ever seen a jumping bean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't know if that was something that. Growing up, we had Mexican jumping beans everywhere.
Uh-huh.
You'd go to the gas station and they'd sell them. I don't know what was in them, but they were bugs. So I'm sure the FDA cracked down on that. So anyway, yeah, the lubricious wax. Doesn't that just sound?
I hate that so much.
Appetizing.
I hate that.
So extra challenging are the fruits and vegetables like beets, currants, plums, and then. Have you my all-time favorite pie? This may be a Midwestern thing. Rhubarb pie.
Rhubarb.
Have you ever had rhubarb?
No.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
You have not lived until you've had a rhubarb pie. Oh my gosh. Rhubarb it looks like red celery. But it comes out, it's got leaves on the end, big ass leaves. So here's the interesting part about rhubarb. If you eat the rhubarb raw, it's poisonous. You have to cook it, but once it's cooked, it has like this tart flavor. Oh my gosh, if anybody listening to this has not had rhubarb pie, we are going into rhubarb pie season. I invite all of you to go find one, order one online, do whatever you got to do. It is mind-blowing good.
Is it like a sweet
flavor? It's really tart.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of sugar in it to take the tartness out.
Okay.
I don't know what it is about it's acid and sweet. It's just got so many flavors kicking.
Interesting.
You're either going to fall in love with it or you're going to hate it.
Rhubarb berry pie, that sounds pretty good.
Okay.
All right.
So rhubarb is the toughest one. That is the top of the corrosive list. So if you're doing the rhubarb pie, I would not get it out of a can.
Mm-hmm.
Because that particular can most likely has 3 layers of lacquer.
Oh, geez.
Not 1, not 2, but 3. And even with that much protection, it still has a shorter shelf life than most other vegetables. So it's going to start eating through that stuff, which means pretty damn quick, you're going to have lacquer and whatever else is in that coating into your rhubarb. So get fresh rhubarb and just make it from scratch.
Yeah.
And it is worth it. So, like I said, there's over 15,000 different coatings. Just crazy. So, making a coating it takes cross-linking resins, curing catalysts, and then there's some additives to give color, clarity, lubrication, antioxidant properties, flow, stability, plasticity, and a smooth surface. So the resin itself is usually an epoxy, but it may also be a vinyl, acrylic, polyester, or oleo resin. It could even be styrene, polyethylene, or polypropylene. I know, lots of big words there. Where we're going with all this is there's coatings on literally every single can, and the cross-linking agent of choice is the most important part of the whole damn podcast. The cross-linking agent of choice for the most tenacious epoxy coating is bisphenol A, affectionately known as BPA. Yummy.
All them water bottles you buy saying BPA free ain't doing nothing, huh?
Well, those are water bottles. Remember, this episode is about cans because yes, we can. Now you get the title. So
I'm just saying, like, it's canceling out at that point.
It's canceling you.
Like,
Yeah.
if you get a BPA-free water bottle and then you drink 3 sodas later, I mean,
Oh yeah. If you drink you go out and buy a Coke.
Yeah.
Or you have a can of rhubarb. Because you just want to be
Man.
crazy like that.
I hate when my rhubarb has BPA in it.
Oh gosh. So according to the coating specialists, roughly 80% of the epoxy is BPA. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So if nothing else, if you listen to this whole episode so far, you've learned foods are corrosive. There's a liner on cans, aluminum cans, steel cans, whatever cans. And that stuff is in there to provide protection, but it is dissolving with your food.
Mm-hmm.
And they design and test to make sure that you have a hard time tasting it. So BPA is not good. We talked about the whole, I think it was called the bottle problem, the BP, earlier episode. Go check that one out. We deep dived into BPA, how they've, they sucker you into saying, oh, BPA free. And then they find out that it's got BPS and BPX and all the other, basically the same damn thing.
It just doesn't even matter.
Different chain on the end of it.
Yep.
Does the exact same thing. But, okay. What is for those of you that have really heard the word BPA, but you're thinking, well, what is it? What is this going to do to me? Is BPA that bad? It can't be that bad. They're putting it in our food. The FDA approves it.
Give us a refresher, Paul.
All right, I'm going to give you the quickest refresher I possibly can.
Run down.
BPA does more than make plastic plastic. It basically makes plastic softer and more durable. That's its real intent. But the double hexagon-shaped molecule is also a notorious endocrine disruptor. So endocrine, that's basically hormones. You don't want to be disrupting your hormones. So it interferes with your normal hormonal biology. And hormones are rare, but they're potent. So the system that stores and secretes them is called the endocrine system. That system controls hair growth, reproduction, cognitive performance, injury response, excretion, sensory perception, cell division, and metabolic rate. Basically your whole life and your future.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. So there's endocrine organs, thyroid, pituitary, and adrenal glands that produce particular molecules that are supposed to fit into particular receptors on your cells. And that's kind of what triggers things to happen. Now, unfortunately, the endocrine disruptors like BPA, they get jammed in those cell receptors so that they either don't do what they're supposed to or they don't stop doing something. And it can cause diabetes and hermaphrodites. Cause hermaphrodites. So a bit of humor thrown in here. When I saw hermaphrodites, I was horrified. Now my generation, I didn't realize that this happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's great having somebody in the office in their early 30s because I get like a refresher on what's going on a few decades later. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like Jamie Lee Curtis. Have you ever heard that Jamie Lee Curtis was a hermaphrodite?
No.
So she had never heard this either, Stacy, we're talking about. So I'm like, you've never heard that? And then we, of course, tried to Google it because I was expecting Google to say yes, because that's what we were all brought up. That was like the rumor.
Right.
Turns out it's fake. So Jamie Lee Curtis is, according to Google, not a hermaphrodite. But what was funny about this whole thing is that she was telling me that there's some new, her generation has like the exact same rumor about the singer, that Milkshake song, Boys in the Yard.
Yeah.
It's a one name word. Oh, damn, what was her name? I'd never heard of her before, but she's like dating some football, some NFL dude. Like Adriana, maybe I'm completely off. Kellis? No.
My milkshake brings all of it in there like it's better than you.
No, it wasn't. What's it?
Yeah, Kellis.
Gallus? I
Yeah,
could have
Gallus.
sworn it was like a longer word. Well, anyway, that person that sings that song that's the girlfriend of the NFL guy,
Mm-hmm.
that's her generation's rumor of a hermaphrodite.
Mm.
So that's why I was laughing, because it seems like we can't get away from this hermaphrodite thing.
Yeah.
And every 20 years, they're going to pop up some new person that has it. So who knows what it's going to be in another 20 years.
Yeah, right.
It's not going to go away. But anyway, BPA can most definitely cause some messed up stuff like that. And if you're hermaphroditic, it's probably not your fault. But if you are not hermaphroditic, so far, stop drinking out of cans. I tried to not drink out of cans starting probably like 15 years ago, because I had heard that Alzheimer, they had found elevated aluminum levels in the brains of Alzheimer people after they had checked them out. And that's, for most of us, as we get older in life, that's one of our, it's not a fear of getting old. It's a fear of getting old and really losing your mind.
Quite literally.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I would love to reduce that risk. So I try to not drink anything out of aluminum. Thank goodness I made that decision, because apparently that aluminum was laden with BPA. So back to my trainer story.
Yes.
So we started this episode off with that whole thing.
Yeah.
And by the time I got done, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, cans have become just a part of life. We eat out of them, we drink out of these things, and it's become so commonplace, and just there's so much volume associated with it that that probably has a lot to do with the low T levels with these younger guys, which is causing all sorts of therapies and remedies and stuff like that. But the problem is, once you're on a remedy for low T, you're stuck. You're stuck on it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's a hormone replacement, so you don't want to go on that any sooner than you have to, if at all. But anyway, yeah, that's just crazy. There was another article. We still got a couple of minutes there, but in 2011, the National Institute of Environmental Health, it's by the NIH, the National Institute of Health.
Mm-hmm.
They did this article called "Most Plastic Products Release Estrogenic Chemicals." So it's terrifying. I'm going to go ahead and give you the summary of this whole thing, because it's a pretty technical read.
Right.
But they were detecting estrogenic activity in over 500 plastics, including many advertised as BPA free. So, as we know, that's not, just because it says BPA free doesn't mean it's good for you.
Right.
So it still had these episodes of estrogenic activity. They report that manufacturing processes like pasteurization. Who drinks milk here? Pasteurization converts non-estrogenic chemicals into estrogenic chemicals.
Interesting.
Is that crazy? So it's taking the stuff that's not bad and turning it into potentially bad stuff. Or maybe not necessarily bad, but altering stuff. I don't want any altering going on.
Right. So is the solution raw milk?
Well, I don't know. The drawback to not pasteurizing is one of those things that I don't know if we can get away from that.
Right.
But they did note, and this is all stuff that most of us have probably in the back of our minds already kind of had a hint or an inkling of. They made special note that sunlight, microwave radiation, and machine dishwashing accelerates the leaching of the estrogenic chemicals from plastics. So if you're putting your plastic cups and your plastic plates in the dishwasher, you are accelerating the leaching of the plastics that's in them.
Like all the heat and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're using the microwave to nuke food on a plastic plate, you are leaching that stuff out faster.
Yep.
Or sunlight. This is one I hate and I love. So at first you're thinking, I just want to have a picnic outside with plastic plates. But back when I was with Home Depot, the big, everybody's getting all rah-rah in the summertime to go ahead and, it's going to be a hot day. Let's go ahead and sell a crap ton of water. So they would get the forklift at, 5 in the morning, and they would pull out pallets of water, and they'd set them out in front of the store. So you got literally pallet after pallet after pallet. It looked great. It's all dark in the morning. The sun hasn't come up. Then the sun comes up, and it's just beating down on these things.
Baking these
just
pallets of
leaching
water.
these chemicals out of the plastic.
Yep.
Yeah. So I see it all the time. I just saw it last night literally at a gas station. They had same exact kind of setup on the very far pump, the one that doesn't have any protection from the sun. They had a whole pallet of water sitting right there. That was their special. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then we wonder why we have hormone issues in this country right now.
Right.
So that was the big deal on the cans. The next episode is going to be digging into very similar territory, but we'll be talking about HAAs. I believe that's the next topic. Haloacetic acids.
Haloacetic acid.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It'd be a great time. I hope today was informative, and my ultimate goal is to be able to change some lives for the better.
Yes.
So if somebody picked up anything from this, and you reduce or change your habits on which you consume from, I think we covered it at the beginning here, but the safe answer: go glass.
Yeah.
Glass had a much lower amount of phthalates. We'll talk about that one next time, but significantly lower, like 90% less than any other container. So glass seems to be pretty safe. Be safe and do something healthy.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you on the next episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe and tell all your friends.